For a Samsung device that was released late last year, I still think the Galaxy S24 FE should be a good get for anyone looking for that flagship experience from Samsung, but at an affordable price should consider. I'm Delpy, and let me explain to you why. The Samsung Galaxy S24 FE was released in the month of October 2024, and for some reason I personally had my hands on this device pretty late. I've had a wild experience with it, and I'm here to share my thoughts as and when I was using it. Let's first start off with the build and design. As somebody who has tested out a lot of devices, this feels premium. And for those of you who don't know, Samsung normally produces the FE line of devices as a fun addition for anyone who wants to still experience the flagship devices, but on a much more budget-friendly level. Last year, S23's FE didn't get so much hype. I personally had a unit, but couldn't really make a detailed review about it because it had some heating up issues. I wanted to think it was my unit, but unfortunately, some others were having same or similar issues. That particular issue has been resolved on here, and I really applaud Samsung for doing that. Still on the build, it feels very sleepy, so you'd want to get a case. But the metallic finish and frame on this device gives it that premium feeling touch. Although sometimes the edges on the frame makes it feel like it's cutting through my hands, I still enjoy holding it without a case. And ever since I got the device, I've been using it without any casing. Power button, volume rocker button, and the USB Type-C charging port are all in their same positions. For those of you who care to know, there's also a down-firing speaker and one up top that also doubles as the earpiece for calls. It does play some sound though. There's a support for dual nano SIM cards here, and how Samsung has designed this is you could either use 2 nano SIM cards or a nano SIM card and an eSIM, or 2 eSIMs. You can't use 2 nano SIM cards and an eSIM. One of them would have to be sacrificed. There's a triple rear camera design, and this kind of design looks similar to most of the devices that were released this year, especially in regards to the A line of devices and even the S24 regulars, being the S24 Plus and the S24 regular. I feel like Samsung is looking at a similar design for almost all their devices because that has been the trend for the past 2 or 3 years if I'm not wrong. It's an all-glass device. The rear side of the device is Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, same as the display on here, which is also powered by Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. And that makes it a very strong and steady device. Let me be honest with you, you can see some dents on the sides of the phone. This phone has fallen quite a number of times, and I've picked it up not worrying about the display cracking or even the rear side cracking. That's how deep and powerful the Gorilla Glass Victus protection on this device is. But I'm gonna be honest with you, as much as mine has fallen quite a number of times, that doesn't mean that yours wouldn't break. It's just that that form of protection is there to ensure that any mild or not so heavy falls would still have your device in good shape when you pick it up. But because it's glass, it has its limits. So get to an extreme form of torsion and you might end up breaking it. So you want to be extremely careful when handling it as well. Ultimately, just get a case for it and a screen protector. And that sums it up for the design. Let's talk about the display. There's a 120 Hz refresh rate on this device, and it's a super AMOLED display like we all know. Samsung doesn't joke with their displays when it comes to the display side of things. And honestly speaking, consuming content, playing games on here has been nothing but amazing. I really love the output of the display on here, and there's absolutely nothing bad I can say. I'm not saying the display is perfect, but it's one of the best on the market, especially when it comes to displays on smartphones. And comparing it to the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which is a device I also have used before, I find this display on par and quite similar to the output it gives. However, this display kind of peaks at 1000 nits of peak brightness, but if you experimented thoroughly with platforms like Geekbench, you could tell that it peaks at around 1340 nits, which in my opinion makes the device look a bit washed out when you're outside, especially in the harshest condition of the sun. But for some reason, you can still consume the content on the device and not worry so much about what you're looking at. It just produces the best, crispiest and powerful display on here. And no forgetting, it has HDR10 Plus support. So for those of you who care about that nifty feature, it's on there and it helps pretty much well. Before I forget, it's a 6.7-inch display, but it fits in my palm pretty well and I don't struggle with it. Maybe it's because I have moderate to big palms. I still kind of find it very comfortable to handle and I don't stress. Unlike its bigger brother, which is the S24 Ultra, which seems quite big and bulky sometimes, I would rather prefer holding this to that. Operating system, Android 14. Packed with Galaxy AI features and more Galaxy intuitive functions that makes this device stand out. If there's any operating system that I enjoy so much, it's Android. And it has to be backed with One UI. One UI in the sense that this comes with One UI 6.1 and it's expected to receive One UI 7 in the upcoming months. So for those of you who care about updates, this device has got you covered. Samsung is providing up to 4 years of software updates for this device. And as it stands, I've never had anything bad with the software. However, I have noticed that in terms of social media and some other aspects of this device, there are some minimal lags and delays in some actions that I take. If I'm trying to take a screenshot with the power button and the volume down button on WhatsApp, it takes quite some time before the screenshot is captured. Sometimes it doesn't even do that. And some other slow features like recording videos directly in the native camera of your WhatsApp application or any other social media application. The video might record, but when you're about to send it to someone, it automatically stops and doesn't even send it at all. It's more as if the whole thing just crashed and the app restarts. Now I must add that this could be a problem that is only affecting my unit and might not be every other unit. But if you're using the S24 FE and you're watching this video, you could leave your thoughts too as well if you're experiencing this in the comments. That aside, I really love the software. There's nothing so bad about it, less bloatware, and even the ones that come with the device are things you could uninstall. Also, Samsung adds RAM Plus here, which I don't think is really necessary, but it's in the software and it allows you to bump up the RAM to a much more higher variant. It actually works when it's necessary. It's not as effective as the inbuilt or the onboard RAM on here, which is 8 gigs of RAM, but it does the job well. Talking about RAM, 8 gigs of RAM is what you get for the base of this device. And storage-wise, you could go as high as 512 gigabytes, and some places even have a terabyte of storage coupled with 8 or 12 gigs of RAM. And I think it's pretty cool and a heavy storage. If you're getting this and you're in Ghana or anywhere in Africa, I'd recommend you get a 256 gigabytes worth of storage variant, which should help you balance between saving your stuff, downloading games, and not worrying about storage a lot. As I'm speaking to you, my storage is almost full because the variant I have here is the 128 gigabytes. So you'd want to take that into consideration when you're purchasing the device. Talking about purchasing, the device is going for $499. Again, depending on where you're getting it from. In the UK, it's around £499. In the Europe, it's around 599 euros. Here in Ghana, it's retailing for around 11,000. So these could be 10,000. Again, depending on the shop you're getting this from. The processor on here is the Exynos 2400E. And as stated earlier in the video, there was a heating up issue in the variant I had last year, which is the S23 FE. Now, comparing it to this device has some form of water cooling system on here, which cools down the device to avoid it heating up when you're playing games, doing heavy demanding tasks. I'm not saying this device doesn't get hot. When you're working with it, you're performing tasks, you could actually feel the processor heat up a little bit, but it's not as hot as compared to what I experienced with the S23 FE. That device could boil rice. Overall, I think the processor on here, which is the Exynos 2400E, has some form of optimization that allows this device to perform extremely well. I've noticed little to no lags, and I've been running this as my daily driver for the past 3 weeks. Cameras. Every aspect of a flagship device has some form of powerful performance when it comes to taking photos. And Samsung didn't miss out on this. The picture quality for this device is amazing. I mean, it has some form of image processing that goes on there to sometimes smoothing out the faces and maybe brightening up darker images, but it still performs pretty well. And for anyone who wants a smartphone that produces some good images, the Galaxy S24 FE I would definitely recommend. When it comes to taking videos, you can record video up to 8K. However, it's not a feature I have used in a long while, but I think it's there for anyone who cares to use that. Most of the time, the maximum you'd want to use is 4K recording. And even with that, you'd have to sacrifice storage a lot because it comes in bigger sizes. Pictures taken on this device is amazing. With a 50 megapixel main camera, 8 megapixel wide, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide lens, you are bound to great image quality. I mean, depending on the style and what you want, there are a plethora of functions in the camera app you could play with, either through Pro mode or even switch between portrait and even Pro video if you want to. I'd highly recommend you take videos in portrait video mode whenever you're taking videos because they look pretty good. With a little over 4,000 mAh battery capacity on here and 25 watts fast charging, this device gets fully charged in a little over an hour and a few minutes. And to be very honest, after charging that, I could use the device close to 6-7 hours on active usage without having to worry about charging it. And after charging it to 100%, I could use the device for close to 6-7 hours before I charge it again. I'm gonna be honest with you, I am a heavy user, and sometimes it might be even less, but this is basically because I do a lot with my smartphone, as you can tell, and this has been my daily driver, single-handedly moving it up and down, doing a lot of videos, taking pictures, and even replying messages on WhatsApp and stuff. So obviously it will take a toll on battery life. It should go longer than that if you're somebody who is just going to just text your friends on WhatsApp, pick up some calls, video calls, meetings, and nothing too intensive, not even play so much games. This should pretty much do the well. So I pretty much have obviously summed it up already, and my thoughts include the fact that this is a great device to get in replacement of the S24 Ultra if you can't afford it. Looking at the fact that we're in 2025, most of the devices will be going down as Samsung is planning to release the S25 series pretty soon. You'd want to wait till the S25 is released and then probably get your hand on this, as the pricing would have been much more better to purchase. However, it's an all-round great device and I would highly recommend anyone with the budget to get one for themselves. I'm Delpy, and we go talk more, Charlie.